Hey, honey badgers. This is not going to be a art-related video, and I know I don't do a lot of front-facing videos on this channel for a number of reasons, but I just came back from a dog walk and had a little bit of an interaction occur that kind of got my anxiety going. And I just thought, with everything that happened, it wasn't anything like super traumatic or anything, but I am someone that has PTSD, so I thought I would just talk about this on camera a little bit, because it was a little bit of a triggering moment, and I just thought maybe if I shared this experience, it might help somebody else. If you I don't know, sometimes it helps to have other people share their experience, and then in a way it kind of maybe silently gives you some form of permission to feel okay about the way you feel, or maybe gives you a path to go on, or a step to take on how to, get on the road to healing something inside yourself. I don't know. I know it's worked that way for me sometimes when I've heard somebody say something a certain way, or just share their experience or something. So you never know where the little helper moment in life is going to be, hearing somebody else share their experience. And I don't go into this side of my life a lot, simply because I typically don't like to be the type of person that likes to bring up the trauma all the time, mainly because it's trauma, and also because I don't want to be one of those people that in some way tries to profit off of trauma, or tries to build an audience off of trauma, or be that girl or that guy or whatever. It feels very personal to me because it's trauma. But I'm also the type of person that feels like if there's an experience that you feel comfortable sharing in some way, and you're okay putting it out there, I think there is benefit sometimes in sharing those moments and making people feel a little bit better about it. But it's very situational for me as far as how much I give out. But in this situation, I thought I would share a little bit, not go into a lot of detail, but share a little bit because, especially with like the climate of the world in general right now, I thought it might help to kind of get it out there a little bit. And for this video, I'm not, obviously I didn't go full face makeup and try to pretty it up, because I'm also not that type of person to, make sure I have a full face and the perfect ring light and all of that before I tell you my deepest traumas. People like that kind of make me cringe and make it look all like an Oprah set and everything, just to tell you something. I don't know. If I have something important to say, I'm just gonna say it, and the face is gonna be what it is. So yeah, I was on this dog walk with Nook, and I saw this older guy walking towards me, and I didn't recognize him as one of my nearby neighbors. And that's not uncommon in my particular neighborhood. I live in a little bit of an older neighborhood, as far as like there's more, it's a working class neighborhood, but there's more like old growth trees around here. There's a lot more like, it has more of a park feel to it because it's been here longer. And so it's pretty common for the people from across the street that live in the more expensive houses but on the postage stamp size lawns to come over here and take their walks and their runs and all of that over here, simply because this neighborhood is a little bit nicer for walking and scenery and all of that. So it's not uncommon to see people I don't necessarily recognize around here. And most of the time, it doesn't mean anything. You run into people and you say, hey, how's it going? And it's like any other place. Every so often I see somebody that gets my hackles up a little bit. And this was one of those guys. And one of the things that contributed to me having PTSD now as an adult was I had a lot of male associated trauma very early on in life. I fought off my first sexual assault when I was 7. Happened right in front of my house. And I was 7, and there was a teenage boy in the neighborhood, and one of his friends pinned me down on the ground in front of a tetherball court that was in front of my house, and tried to sexually assault me. Tried. And if my mom was around, she could confirm this story, because she used to tell it to people all the time, because she heard me yelling and she came running out of the house, and by the time she got out to the field, I had already fought them off. And like, I don't remember a lot of what I did in that moment, but I know that I've always had the type of personality that, you know, day to day, I'm very like chill and sweet, and, you know, bake you brownies, how's your mom, and them kind of person. But if you back me into a corner, I can turn into a fucking hellcat because I'm that type of person. I do not like to be backed into a corner. And a lot of times I will give people one warning, sometimes if I'm feeling generous too. But if I give you 2 warnings and you haven't backed off of me, that's when the hellcat comes out. And at that point, I kind of like go red a little bit. And so like, who knows if you're going to get hit in the balls or the face, or I don't know. At that point, I'm just thinking of like protecting my own body or my family or whatever. So something like that had happened at 7. And then at 14, I had a similar incident, but with one of my dad's poker buddies. And no, sorry. It happened at 11. I was 14 when I told my parents what happened, and my dad told me I brought it on myself at 14. And then there was multiple experiences after that where I just have this like history of experiences of trying to put a little bit of trust out there. And this isn't a video to say that like all guys are garbage. It's just, there's a lot of dangerous ones out there. And so that's where some of the PTSD comes from. And it's not to the point where like, I don't associate with men and I hate men. And it's not like that at all. It's just like my boundaries are kind of firm as far as like, you know, like I have good friendships with guys, but a lot of the friendships I have with guys, they know to be very careful when it's like physical contact with me. Like you can't just come up to me and like, if you're a guy, it's very hard for you to just like come up to me and just put your hands on me without warning and not have me at least look at you like, the fuck are you doing? Because of those experiences. But I'm also not the type of person that's like going to fly off the handle. If it happens, I'll just, you know, allude to, could you please back up a little bit kind of thing. Anyway, I saw this guy coming towards me and it triggered some of those memories. And one of the things that I tend to do, because I've lived the majority of my life either as a single woman or for the years I was married, I still was by myself a lot in that marriage. So I had to protect myself, because the other thing that tends to happen, at least what happened with me, is any guy that I have gotten into a relationship with tends to be emotionally weaker than me because of the experiences I've had. Because like, you're not gonna get into a relationship with a guy that's gonna understand what it feels like as a woman to be unwillingly pinned down by a man bigger than you, and that terror you feel inside as a woman, hoping that you're strong enough to fight them off. Because you can be all the hellcat you want, but there could be instances where you can't get a man off because he is physically just biologically, men are going to typically be stronger than women. That's just the way their muscles are made up, compounded, everything. If you study anatomy and physiology, yes, women have stronger muscles in, like, you know, baby factory area, but generally, as far as like arms and legs and things like that, yes, there are female bodybuilders and all that, but typically men carry stronger weight strength in them than the average woman will. And so there is a terror that comes with, am I going to be strong enough to get this guy off me? Because there's a chance you might not be. And it's very hard to explain to even the kindest hearted man what that fear feels like and what it does to you for the rest of your life in your head. And it's not to say that you can't live a good life. It's just, there's always a little bit of that in the back of your mind. And so I saw this guy coming towards me, and I just, like, that trigger hit me, and I've been through these experiences enough. I know to at least give that intuition a little bit of credit when it happens. And so I had my house keys in my pocket and just very subtly did the knife trick. And it made me think back to years ago when my ex-husband and I were first dating, and I mentioned the key thing to him. And this guy was, I mean, my ex-husband he's still a firefighter now. He's a former cop. He had never heard about the key knife thing. And I was shocked because I'm like, how did this never come up? How have you never heard of this? And he's like, how do you know how to do that? How does every woman know how to do this, apparently? And so, yeah, that's what made me think of this video, is just, it's weird being a woman on this planet. The things that we just get used to doing. And we don't think about, I don't even know who taught me about this. Like, somehow I just knew how to go out in the world knowing how to use my keys as a knife at a very young age. And virtually every woman I know has known to do that. If you don't know, just by chance, if you're a younger woman that comes across this video and you don't know what I'm talking about, I guess I can teach you real quick. House key, mailbox key, car key, whatever you got, you pick whichever one tends to have the sharpest teeth, is usually the one I go with. And then you stick it in between your fingers like this, like a Wolverine claw. And you just keep it in your pocket. And then if a guy approaches you, and like I said, I typically do a warning if I feel threatened. I'm not out here trying to, cause shit and think that every man is a threat. But if there is something that makes me bodily anxious and he doesn't respond to me being like, can you please back up? Then I will have that at the ready. And one thing I was taught as a kid, because, I've mentioned in other videos on this channel how I went through, my dad being a doomsday prepper and all that kind of stuff. And another thing that made it hard as a kid is my dad taught me and he taught both me and my brother a lot of self-defense. And he focused on teaching my brother about guns. He focused on me because I didn't like guns. He taught me more about hand-to-hand combat. And one of the things that came with my training is that I was taught how to take a hit from a man before I was in my teens. So tween girl, having to learn how to take a hit from a full-grown man was part of my training. So that, because my dad thought, my dad thought if anything happened in the world, I would be ready. Which, I mean, that is in the back of my mind. I have survived a lot, considering the upbringing I have. And so maybe in a dark way, he had a point, because, I mean, things are pretty dark in the world now, so who in the hell knows? But, yeah, that was the kind of upbringing I had, where, thankfully I had my mom around, which is why I am so close to the memory of my mom and why I mention her a lot more than my dad. I don't think of my dad as like a demon person, but he was very troubled. There were some things where he had good intentions, but to be fair, I don't think either of my parents were really emotionally equipped to be parents. And my brother and I just kind of did the best we could. But my mom was very soft hearted, and she did love kids, but there was a lot about my dad that she wasn't equipped to mentally take on. She didn't like his dark side, and so they fought a lot. But thankfully, having my mom be the soft person she was, I think balanced out a lot of the harshness my dad had. But because my dad was the person he was, I wasn't overly weak around my mom either. And so I became kind of like my mom's bodyguard, because I saw a lot of people, you know, my mom being the kind-hearted person she was, I saw a lot of people try to take advantage of her. And so when I was growing up, not just with her, just with anybody I was around, I became that person that had sort of like the very sweet side, but also I could be the junkyard dog if need be, because I had grown up with the dad I had. So I had this weird mix growing up that I still carry around, where I can be the sweet neighbor that's working in her garden, but also, you know, if there is a conflict with one of my neighbors where there's like a domestic dispute or something, I can also be the person that's going to rip a guy off of a girl and be like, the fuck. So yeah, it's kind of a complicated soul to live in. But back to this guy that was coming at me, not like in an aggressive way, but like enough to where I, you know, did the key thing. I didn't show him the key. I just had it ready in my pocket just in case. And there was something about the way he was walking that made me feel weird. And he kept kind of like nearing towards me, and I had the dog with me. And if any of you have little dogs yourself, you know that littler dogs tend to have just a little bit more psychosis than bigger dogs. They have a lot more don't give a fuck to them than, say, because I used to have Labradors, and Labradors want to be best friends with everybody. My little dog, not so much. You have to prove yourself a little bit more to him. But he does not like aggressive towards everybody. He's very curious about kids and women and things like that. But this guy, he did reach out his nose to the guy because the guy was like, oh, hi guy. And he tried to put out his hand to Nook. And Nook did try to approach him just to check him out. And Nook instantly growled. And my dogs, any of my dogs that I've had, they almost never growl at anybody. And so when they do growl at somebody, I know there's something about that personality that I should be wary of, because it almost never comes up. They like everybody, or they at least, respect everybody's space, that kind of thing. And so as soon as Nook growled at his hand and the guy was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That in my head, that's when I instantly thought, I fucking knew it. I knew it. And the guy walked off because, I guess he saw that there was no instance of weirdness to be had there. So I don't know whatever his intention was, or maybe he didn't have an intention. Maybe there was clearly something off about him, though, because that is one thing you can rely on with dogs, is they don't have filters to them. If a dog growls, they usually got a good reason. So if that guy didn't have ill intentions towards me, I take it as there was something else in his past where, I don't know. I don't know if he smacked around women in the past. I don't know if he had hurt other animals, but I've been around animals enough to know they can pick up on that too. They just have a way of knowing that, in a way that sometimes humans can miss, that there's just something off in that particular soul. There's, that vein of darkness that's, everybody's got a tinge of their darkness, their Lilith character, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of it is, you know, just like you're a little bit moody or whatever. But every so often you get a person who's like legitimately dark, where, you know, you just need to go over there kind of dark. So yeah, I figured I would just do this video as just a reminder to mostly women, but any guys that come across this too, to don't dismiss your intuition, and not necessarily just about evil people, just like anything really. Just give your intuition credit. If you feel something down in your gut, if something feels off for whatever reason, I mean, don't automatically assume the worst about people, but at least give yourself credit to investigate the feeling and try to figure out what in this environment is making me feel that way. Is it something in me that I need to heal? Is it something legitimately about that person? And don't feel bad if you need to distance yourself from situations for a minute to get clarity. Don't feel bad if you're in an environment where you need to admit that something feels off and you don't really know why, but you're uncomfortable. You being uncomfortable really is the only reason you need. You are your own person. This is your life, your body. If you are uncomfortable, that is the only reason you need. You can figure out the rest later. And I say that as somebody who took a long time to be okay to say that, because I used to be a chronic people pleaser, always feeling guilty about anybody else having issue with my behavior, or if I wasn't going to be the most liked person in the room or anything like that. It took me a long time to be the person that's just like, I don't like the way I feel in this environment, and I'm gonna step out. So if as someone who has gone through the process of getting to that point after many years, if you need to hear it from me, that is the only reason you need. You feel uncomfortable. You want to get to a place where you feel more safe. That's it. That's the only excuse you need. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody. You need to fight for your own safety and your own comfort, and your own boundaries. And yeah, just respect your intuition. It's there for a reason. I feel like this is something that needs a reminder on, as the world gets a little bit more sketchy every day. Yeah, just keep in mind, your intuition is there for a reason. We're programmed with that little feature for a reason. Don't let anybody try to deprogram that out of you and say you're being weird, you're being crazy. No, listen to your spirit. You know, when I was a kid, one of the sayings, life sayings that got drilled into me was listen to your God and your guides. It was always taught to me that, because my dad, part of his family is Native, so that's where some of this comes from. Is I got raised with some of those Native teachings, and that was one that got drilled into me a lot. Where I was told, listen to your God and your guides, because usually when you get away from that is when your life starts to go to shit. You stepped away from whatever your God and your guides are. It's not religion specific. It's just having a point of center outside of your own ego, basically, is kind of the idea. And typically whenever you get away from your gods and your guides, your spiritual equilibrium, your alignment, whatever you want to call it, whenever you step away from that and try to drive your life from your ego, is usually when shit goes south, from what I've experienced and what I've taught. Not what I've taught, what I've been taught and what I have personally experienced. So yeah, I know this video is going to be all over the place, and part of it was just me trying to talk myself down from my anxiety attack that's been going on inside of me, because one of the types of anxiety I have is social anxiety, partly from all of the trauma and stuff, but I tend to just deal with it on the inside. I have a lot of coping things and stimming and stuff I do that is just like little slight like hand gestures or things like that I do. Tend to get more noticeable if the anxiety gets more and more. But yeah, social anxiety and medical anxiety tend to be the two big ones that I fight with. So yeah, this one definitely triggered a moment of the social anxiety. And so yeah, I just thought I would mention that. I thought I would bring up the key thing for anybody who didn't know that. Maybe share my experiences with being female in this world, just for also for the guys that may come across this video. If you come across women that you think are being overly emotional, or if you wonder why some women come off as man haters or whatever the case is, I will admit, as a woman, there are some women who are unnecessarily bitter. I'm saying, as a woman, yes, there are evil men out in the world, but as a woman, you also have to do your own degree of healing so that you can be happy in your life. Like, sitting with the poison of what men did to you, that's not going to make your life any better. You need to make peace with that somehow. And I say this as somebody who has lived through sexual assault. I survived a boyfriend years ago that literally tried to strangle me to death, because I tried to put an end to his abuse. I survived that. So yeah, I'm not saying it as someone who's trying to be a pick-me girl. I'm saying it as someone who has tried to live as peacefully as I can with the memories I've experienced. And I'm telling you, it feels so much better. I know it might not feel like it when you're really close to the trauma, but it feels so much better if you can get to a place where you can make peace with there being evil in the world. You have to fight to live well for yourself. Because I've tried to live the other way, where you just carry all the hate and the anger and pain and all that with you. It doesn't take you anywhere good. It just makes you cry a lot and be depressed, and it's awful. So that's why with this channel, I try to do a lot with encouraging finding peace, finding balance, finding ways to regulate your system, get your feelings out, because I am a big supporter of not holding shit in. Do what you gotta do. If you gotta listen to screaming music for a while, within reason, like, let's keep it legal, obviously, as I like to promote. Let's not turn to violence or anything, unless you want to go to one of those like designated smash therapy places where you can go break stuff up at a junkyard or whatever. Absolutely do that, because that's in a confined, safe space. But I don't condone going and doing it in a place that's not designated for that. Let's not hurt people to make ourselves feel better. That doesn't make any sense. But like healthy things, like if you know, like on this channel, I've talked about using sound wave therapy a lot, and just whatever you do. If, like, here I talk about diamond painting a lot. I've used diamond painting as a way to process my OCD in a healthy way, because I used to be kind of obsessive about that, and the diamond painting has helped me create an avenue where, like, the obsessive thoughts can go somewhere productive, instead of being up in my head too much. So yeah, whatever you need to do, if you're a crocheter, if if you're a hiker, like whatever calms you down, definitely give yourself that space. Encourage that time for yourself. If you journal, sometimes if you don't do anything, sometimes it's nice just to find a good chair and just sit and stare out the window for however long you need to. Sometimes that's good too. It doesn't have to be anything intensive, but just whatever brings you back to center for at least a few minutes a day. Just doing that little by little and making a dedicated decision to fight for your own peace and happiness, and not let the bastards win, as they say, and just fighting to be a good, peaceful person in a world of, oh, I don't even know what we call some of this bullshit sometimes. But just being your own good person, keeping your heart soft as much as you can, not letting the acidity win. Because I can tell you, I don't talk about like the downfall of my marriage too much, obviously, because I'm not one, like I'm still on good terms with my ex, as far as like, like we don't hate each other, but there was a lot of hurt in that relationship, and it hurt even worse because he excuse me, back in the day used to be my best friend, and one of the reasons I married him was because he had me convinced that he, of all guys, was someone I was going to be able to trust, with all the secrets and hurts and everything. And it turned out, you get married and they'd say, for better or for worse, sickness and health and all of that stuff. And it turned out that he turned out to be the type of person that's really good at saying nice things and then choking on the actual action part of it. And he admits that himself. He admits that conflict, hardships in life, they kind of freak him out. And yeah, so that didn't really line up with having a chronically ill wife. There were other things that happened in life, and then all that to say, a strong factor in why that relationship ultimately crumbled was because he let life get to him. He let, in Star Wars terms, he let the dark side win. And it's not to say that he's a garbage human being now. He's not. But he lives very safely. He lives as distant as he can from stresses in life. To the point where he just, as long as he can, he tries to act like they're not happening. And then when life shows him they are in fact happening, he freaks out, gets all stressed out, gets pissed off, and just creates more of it for himself. And it's a very stressful type of energy to live around. And it's not good when you have chronic illness to also try to be the support system for somebody who doesn't want to do the work to heal their own shit. It's a lot to try to be your own cheerleader, because that person isn't going to be, because they're not their own cheerleader. They're not going to be yours. So they're trying to feed off of your good energy a lot. And it's, when you're already like trying to hold on to some of yours to keep your own body going, and then you're also trying to give to them because that's your spouse and you love them, and it's just like, I got so drained. And ultimately, for anyone who was curious that saw my old channel, was like, what happened to that guy? This is a rough version of what went down, because I'm also not the type of person that likes to talk a lot of shit about their ex. I tend to find that kind of tacky, because like at the end of the day, like, you did choose to be with them. So I feel like if you're talking a lot of garbage about your ex and throwing all the dirt out on the internet, it doesn't make you look any better. It makes you look kind of tacky and like you're not over it. And for me, like, yeah, I'm definitely like healed from that. I'm just sharing the experience for anybody that was curious, and also to kind of tie it into this as far as like what it can do when you don't deal with your shit. It can end up breaking up what was at the beginning a very good and soft, loving relationship. It can turn it into something salty and exhausting, because you have one or both sides that will not fight for their peace and healing and all of that. Because he also came from his own toxic family situations, but he just left it as, well, that's just the way they are. And that was also something that was really hard on me, is trying to be peaceful around my former mother-in-law, who she was not really great to people that weren't already kissing her ass. And I tried to stomach a lot for the sake of loving my husband, even though there was a lot of disrespect. And there was so much trauma in that past with him and his family that he wouldn't stand up to her, and he just let me take the brunt of that, and then added to it because for some reason he was mad about stuff. And so that's the other thing, is like, when you don't heal your own stuff, you tend to take it out on the people who are rooting for you the most. And that's the thing, is like, his life is not any magically better because he got his chronically ill wife out of the way. Even though, like, when we were still together, he was acting like I was going to mess up his secure retirement plans, and now he is with somebody that is much more financially set in life than I am. He did go and run off with somebody that was older and carrying a lot more money bags than I have. But it didn't solve anything. His problems are still there. He doesn't magically look any happier. So that's kind of my thing, is there are going to be messed up people in the world. There's going to be trauma. So this is just me encouraging you to just take the time, be unapologetic, and handle your shit as best you can. Be the best person, be the softest person you can be in this really confusing world. So yeah, I've probably gone on long enough with this video. Like I said, I was trying to talk myself down from this anxiety attack, and so maybe there's something useful in here. But yeah, I think I'm done rambling now, so I'm gonna go. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye guys.